Hey, my name is Jason. I'm one of the co-hosts of Creativate Live. Just wanted to jump in before we really officially get into this episode and say a couple of things. One, this episode was recorded. We recorded live to tape prior to the instructions from our governor in the state of Washington saying stay at home. So you're going to see Kylie and I together recording this episode. And then the second thing is this episode is called Olympic gold. Naturally, of course, this was prior to the Olympics being postponed as well. So just wanted to jump in here, let you know those two things. Kylie and I, as entrepreneurs, as designers, we're excited to share this episode. I hope you enjoy it.
This is Creativate. Discover creativity and innovation in the world around us and get inspired to pursue your creative passion.
What's happening? Welcome to Creativate Live. And whether you're listening on the podcast or watching online at YouTube, hey, we're so glad that you're here. I'm joined as always by my co-host,
Hello.
Kylie Danskin. Kylie, here we go.
Yep, episode 5. I'm so excited.
Episode 5.
We decided to title this episode
Olympic Gold. Olympic Gold. The Olympics are not far off. And and you know, with some of my background, we thought, like, hey, let's tie this thing in. But today is a special day as well.
So we're going to try something brand new today. We are going to do another interview, but we are going to do a phone interview.
First phone interview. And our track record, if I'm honest, with the technology, it's not good. It's not good, as we've talked about in past episodes.
Yeah.
But
one of the reasons why we wanted to do the show live and we wanted to not edit things and we just wanted to keep rolling is because sometimes really cool stuff, fun stuff happens in those transition moments. So fingers crossed today that it goes well.
That this all works.
So who are we interviewing?
Well, I'm really excited about this, even personally, the interview today. We're interviewing Alan Brooks, who first and foremost is just a great friend of mine. I would even say a mentor of mine. Alan has worked for several marketing agencies, more Olympic committees than me. And in fact, he's even worked for the IOC, which is the governing body of the Olympics. He won't mind me mentioning also that he was on a national handball team for the United States of America and States of America as well. But yeah, we're excited to have him on, and I think Sam is giving us the hand signal here. He's online. He's online one right now. Alan, are you there?
I am here.
Alan.
Yes.
There was a slight pause. I was nervous.
Your technology prowess comes through once again.
Yes. Thank you for following the show. Hey, Brooksy, Alan, seriously, thank you so much for coming on the show and taking some time out. I know you're actually working on the upcoming Olympic Games, in fact, as well right now.
Yeah, I have an exciting project. Can't share a bunch about it, but I have an exciting project for one of the sponsors of the Tokyo 2020 Olympics.
Wow.
So really excited about that. And it's the sprint to the finish, as most things Olympic are.
Yes. Well, thanks so much for being on. And Kylie,
Yeah,
so we kind of we're thinking about all right, what do we want to ask Alan today?
I know. Yeah. So we wrote down a couple questions. I'm gonna ask you the first one, okay?
All right.
All right.
Go ahead.
You've worked for marketing agencies, the IOC, and several Olympic organizing committees. What setting required the most innovation and creative thinking from your part?
Yeah, take a minute.
Good
I
question.
know. I actually read it because
she came out of the box with a strong question. He's going to take a moment. If we could just collect ourselves.
Sorry, I kind of put you on the spot. But just being in those types of settings, like what took the most creative? What took the most innovative thinking on your part?
Well, I guess I would come at it from a slightly different element. I don't know if one or the other took the most.
Okay.
I would say they each took elements of creativity that were different than one another. So For example, working with the IOC and the Olympics, there's a lot of rich tradition and history that is involved with the game.
Mm-hmm.
And many times when you get into an organization like the IOC, there is a lot of, this is the way we've done things. There's a lot of cultural elements that come into place. So that being said, there's still a need to be successful. There's still a need to go into different markets and bring forward, a level of excellence and success. And so the creativity oftentimes becomes, how can one operate inside sometimes a rigid cultural structure,
right?
Sometimes some rigid expectations or the way things have been done. How can one work within that while also creatively thinking about how can we still deliver excellence, deliver success in the Olympics, which are an ever-changing environment.
Oh, yeah.
Because you go from country to country and culture to culture. So the creativity oftentimes comes around how one can realize the end goal while still working within structures that are many times set. And then on the side of agencies many times pride themselves in how creative they are. And so there's a need to
Right.
continue to sort of out-creative one another, right? And continue to bring fresh, new perspectives and thinking and all of that. So I think that creativity there oftentimes is not falling into the same sort of rote patterns or the success that we had last week with a client. Next week we have to think differently. We have to take into consideration, the next client's needs or the next environment in which we're going to deliver an activation. And so I think stepping back and checking ourselves not to rest too strongly on maybe a successful program we just came off of or a successful campaign we dreamt up that the client loved, and really challenging ourselves to yet again make fresh and anew this next opportunity. So
that's really good.
I think creativity each time can be a little bit different in different scenarios.
Yeah, no, and Alan, I recall some of the times that, you and I have worked together, that creativity, especially in the pitch stage, right?
Oh.
That you kind of know the players in this Olympic world and kind of who's going to be bringing these creative ideas together, and sometimes those creative concepts are ultimately what win the day, aren't they?
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right, Jason. I mean, we've been at pitch tables together, as you said, and I know you have your own track record of success. And I think for me, especially in those times of working with a client to trying to figure out what it is that's going to be successful for them, the creativity comes from first listening. I think many times listening about what the desire is, what the goal is. Sometimes listening for the sometimes unspoken barriers and unspoken impediments to a broader way of thinking. And then the creativity comes in, how you can now take a client or an opportunity outside of itself and come to a new way of thinking, a new perspective. And so driving creativity that way, I think, is a big part of that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alan. That is awesome. That's just
Good.
it's just so good. I think it gives a little bit of a snapshot into a world that, some of our listeners and watchers maybe, don't get to experience every day. Hey, so the next question, Alan, it's kind of focused around creativity as well. And, there's that saying of, sometimes you've just got to get creative, right? And you and I have been in different settings, different countries, different projects. And one of them in particular comes to mind that I think we need to discuss, in public here. Okay. And Kylie, and I'm glad you're able
to witness this?
get to be part of this, because maybe there's some things that I've been holding inside a long time, and I feel like this is a moment to just really talk about it with Alan.
Oh, geez.
And
what are we getting into?
Well, I think you might.
This is live. Don't forget.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. We will not edit this out. No, Alan. So one of the projects that you gave me a call on, I remember, years back, that I thought would be really fun to talk about. was the project that we did in Puebla, Mexico.
Yeah.
You're nodding your head somewhere right now. I can tell. And by the way, Alan's coming to us from Oakland, California. I just got to give Oakland a little shout out there, Oaktown.
Hey, Oaktown.
Yeah. But so this Puebla, Mexico project, you gave me a call. You gave me kind of a rough rundown. It was very vague, I'll say, from my perspective of what the project actually was.
Okay.
And
I still wanted you to show up. Yeah.
It was, look,
Just come to Mexico and find out.
You recruit people as you need, and
Yeah.
but okay, so I'm going to sum up this project, but I think it was a really great illustration of creativity and just not being able to plan for what's coming, because and almost every project, and Kylie, I know you've been
lots of unforeseen.
You just don't know what's coming, or there's something that pops up that you've got to just solve. And so so the project in Mexico, it was actually the 150th anniversary of Cinco de Mayo. Wow. Now, a lot of people think that Cinco de Mayo is Mexico's independence. That's actually not true.
Okay.
It's a celebration of the country.
Or an excuse just to drink margaritas and eat nachos.
Right.
Exactly.
Always a good excuse.
Yeah, there's two ends of the spectrum there, but both are questionable.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
We're not going to say wrong, but
no,
questionable.
I'm not going to
sure.
go, but so this particular project was a celebration of the 150th anniversary of Cinco de Mayo, which was actually the celebration of the Mexican armies, so defeating Napoleon. Okay. So Napoleon was basically invading, and the Mexican armies kind of fell back to Fort Puebla, which was kind of on this, obviously now a historic site. It's kind of a hillside. And what they thought was, okay, we're going to put together this big production, and it was kind of a show and fireworks, and it was going to be televised live to what, Alan, 28 countries, I think it was?
Yeah, it was north of 28, maybe 32 countries, but worldwide, made-for-TV event, live broadcast. Yep.
Right. So
and you guys were in charge of that.
Yeah, so we were managing the venue and managing parts
Sounds
of
like
making sure the
moving
production was
pieces.
going to happen. Lots of different moving pieces.
Okay.
Now, Alan, there's a way that a lot of times from a planning perspective that teams prepare for scenarios, right, in the Olympic world. And you and I talked about this not long ago. Do you want to talk about that? And I think it tees up perfectly this experience, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, so I had obviously given Jason enough information so that he knew where he needed to show up for work, but not too much that he would not come. It was an exciting project. One of the things, in the event world, the Olympic world, large sporting events like this, we have what we call tabletop scenarios. They're basically you walk through kind of what if scenarios in the process of preparing a team, a venue team, or a team of people that are going to be delivering. You give them sort of hypothetical scenarios that they have to work on solving, and how you go through communication, and how you
weather permit, or like
it could be any number of things. It could be exactly. You throw out a scenario like on X date, the athlete bus system doesn't show up as scheduled. What do you do? And so the intent is to be able to sort of triage the situation and have your venue team go through issue resolution on who they would talk to, how they would solve it, and then eventually how they would bring the issue to close.
Right.
And so many times what happens in these scenarios is you get a room full of people who are going through this, and when they hear the scenario, they start complaining man, that's ridiculous. That will never happen. Why are we trying to solve this? And you have to kind of say, don't worry, just like, the intent is not that this is hypothetical, but the intent is just how would you solve for this? So if I wrote down even 5 of the things that we faced in Puebla on random cards and had teams solve them, there is just no way that anybody would ever. Yeah,
they would revolt. They would revolt. The team,
okay,
the room would revolt.
I need to know what
the room
happened.
would revolt because and it's exactly how he's saying. Like we've been in these scenarios where they're like, okay, that could just never, oh come on, let's just be more realistic about this.
Right.
Until I think this.
What happened? I feel like.
Oh, we're setting it up.
I feel like I need to know.
Are you in, Kylie? Are you in for this story?
I'm sure people are listening to this like, okay, guys, what?
Okay, so here's a couple. Here's just some environmental things.
Oh, environmental.
So,
okay.
Yeah, environmental things. So we were down there on and off over about 5 months.
Right.
During that time, there were no less than 2 significant earthquakes. That took place.
Okay.
There was a volcano. There were 3 different volcanoes. I believe 3 different volcanoes are sort of on the horizon of Puebla. One of which would, on a daily basis, spew enough ash into the air that we had to clean off, seats and equipment and all this stuff. We're like, it's basically like watching ash fall
Were
from
you
the sky.
in a danger zone? Was it like in that close proximity
No,
to you?
It wasn't that close. It wasn't that
Okay.
close. It was close enough where we're getting sprayed with ash, but not that close.
Word.
I remember being able to see
That's
lava,
awful.
like when you would look up, in the horizon. No, really.
No.
Now look, it's on the horizon.
Okay.
It's not in the city.
It's a long way away.
Yeah.
It's a long way away.
But you're literally
the ash
dealing with
fallout-
ash falling from the sky.
Yeah, we were wiping off equipment and seats with a quarter inch of ash in preparation.
Yeah.
Was that someone's job? They were just the.
Well, it was all hands on deck, wasn't it, Brooksy?
Everyone's job.
Yeah, absolutely. As Jason was mentioning, the site that we were working on. So what we were creating was as we said, it was a 90-minute made-for-TV event that included live dance performances, live music, an entire theatrical presentation. Kind of think of some of the showpieces. The company that hired both Jason and I is a company that has done like major productions around opening and closing ceremonies of Olympics and World Cups and the various international sporting events.
Okay.
And so it was I would say a smaller version of those kinds of things, like 300-person theatrical set.
But still, 10,000 pieces.
10,000 pieces of pyro, for example. And so the site that we were doing this on, that we were building a temporary 6,000 seat seating structure, along with the stage that had a portion of the stage that would actually go vertical, would vertically rise up out of the stage, and they had like an entire theatrical roped aerial show that took place. All of this was being built on a UNESCO World Heritage site, which is the Fort Puebla, where this battle took place back 150 years ago. And so while we're doing this construction, there is literally hundreds of millions of pesos worth of renovations going to this site.
Right.
So we're building while they are building. And, as you can imagine, 2 major construction projects like that is interfacing. It was all sorts of complications on a daily basis for everything from logistics and delivery to just our own setup. It was amazing.
Oh, wow.
And then ultimately they had because it was 150th anniversary, they decided to have, I think it was like a month-long celebration where every day there were anywhere from 40,000 to 90,000 people who came to the very site where we were and celebrated and had nightly concerts and all this stuff. Yeah. And our streets would get closed down. It was maddening. It was crazy.
My word.
The street closures, the people, and ultimately, like as he's describing, so we're building this site. You've got staff, volunteer, like training, all kinds of different things going on, and all of this is happening all at once.
And people partying.
There was a little bit of that.
And people partying.
There was a little bit of that. But Alan, okay, so if you tell those 2 things, you're like, wow, what a challenge.
Yeah.
Well, okay, how are we going to overcome? Like, what is the community?
Right.
But Brooks, we've got at least, I know, I mean, we could go on. There are so many things that happen in this project, but I want to talk about lightning for a second. I want to talk about another natural piece of this.
Okay.
So Alan, I mean, okay, so I'm going to set you up here. So we're leading up into the event, and
Right.
and there are a number of things that are happening. We're getting all this stuff, and it's kind of in place. And then Alan, we're doing like we did a couple of major dress rehearsals, and then the main thing, and then but we had another kind of I don't know, Brooksy, would you say act of God, natural?
Totally.
Yeah.
Natural disaster. I mean, there were, as you said, 2 dress rehearsals. And the night of the first dress rehearsal, we had loaded in about 6,000 people into the stands, and a storm blew in right as, with probably 30 or 45 minutes before we were supposed to go live. And we had to evacuate all the people out of the stands, put them down into a nearby convention center, and hold them there to see if we could start again, which and it rained, it poured, lightning came down. It was just great. It was maddening, crazy.
Oh my word!
We had another dress rehearsal, just 1 or 2 days later. We were able to have that one, which was great. And then show day, as we were starting to open the venue, it was like about an hour and a half, I think, before we were supposed to go live. And again, this is a live broadcast around the world. You have a broadcast window that you have to meet.
Probably worth noting as well, Kylie. So the president of Mexico, going in attendance. Alan, there were other ambassadors, governors. Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, the dignitary list included Barack Obama. So that was like the level of people that were coming. Barack didn't come, but that was like the level of people that were invited to this.
Man.
So it was, it was intense in terms of the level of expectation, the level of excellence. It was Mexico, the country of Mexico's night to shine in this huge celebration. And we had another storm that blew in lightning, and we had to not fill the stadium. And it literally, like, right up until about 20 minutes before the broadcast window would close, we didn't know whether we were going to be able to bring people out of the same convention center. And we finally were able to. We loaded them in. Worth noting, Jason, I don't know if you even knew this part, but during one of the dress rehearsals, the lead dancer, so again, there was like Mark Anthony was one of the artists.
That's right.
That was singing and doing the music. So like that level of performing was going on. But the lead dancer fell and hurt herself. And for the actual live show, the understudy had to fill in.
I did not know that.
So, yes. So the understudy was the one who filled in for the actual performance. It was like everything you could think of, and it would happen in big ways and then little ways.
And the understudy was someone that was on our staff, so they were in the operation. No, I'm just kidding.
You picked the right team.
Oh man!
They take off their badge and put on shoes. I'm ready. Put me in.
But to bring this thing, yeah, exactly. Kylie, you're on. Yeah. I know you've been working operations this whole time. I heard you can dance. You've seen this things enough times. You're in. But Alan, okay, so I mean, to bring this thing full circle, really, this is one of those situations. You do your best planning. We're down there for 5 months. We're doing all this planning and preparation and communication. And it just obviously didn't go as planned for lots of reasons. Yeah. I mean, takeaways, Alan. I mean, kind of sum it up as far as, kind of big picture in this setting and others maybe.
Well, I guess, you guys started this with the theme of creativity, right? Mm-hmm. So, it was a diverse team down there. We had, Jason obviously and I were coming from the United States, but we had a bunch of Mexican nationals, some people who had just worked on the Pan Am Games who had great experience. We had an international agency, so we had a real diverse team. Mm-hmm. And so I think one of the things that stood out to me, both in this project as well as others that I've worked on, is creativity comes around the solutions that can be brought forward. I think many times we can get really focused on the barriers that are in front of us, or the reasons that we cannot do something, those obstacles that seem to, pop up in front of us. And this can be, with like large projects like we're talking now, but it can just be in like everyday elements of life. So I think the times that creativity for me comes in, or when I think about how creativity is there in life, is how can we get beyond the obstacles that are in front of us? How can we think outside of the traditional way forward? How can we think about other ways to solve something? How can we think about and take maybe a new perspective? And I think there's a lot of creativity in that. And I think that, you see that in various professions, the creativity around that is even needed right now in solving for this element that we're facing with coronavirus. Right. There is so much creativity that comes in the day-to-day that naturally comes forward around how a family is going to solve for being sheltered at home, or the scientist that is looking for a new way to combat this virus, or the politicians that are trying to come up with new ways to go about trying to bring life back to normal. All of that, to me, there is this element and this beauty of creativity that comes in not focusing on the barrier, but how can we step back, rise, kind of pull back out to that 30,000 foot and look at things and find a new path, and then eventually come back into, come down from the 30,000, because that's not where solutions get delivered. They get delivered back on the ground, right? So we got to come back and now walk it out, and walking it out with sort of an appreciation for who we have on the team. We had a real diverse team down in Mexico, and it was beautiful to see the way in which different people would rise up in a scenario, in a situation that maybe even required more than they thought they had. And that was beautiful to see. It's one of the things I love about big projects like this, is you get to see people go through transformation and evolution of themselves personally. And it's just exciting to see as a leader of a team, as part of a team. And it's one of the things I think that keeps bringing me back to projects like this.
That's really good. I love that you talked about leading the team, because that's kind of goes into our last question for you. From a marketing agency standpoint, and having worked with several creative teams, what would you say is the best leadership advice that you could give others in the same setting?
I come at leadership with a real servant mindset, a servant heart. To me, the ability for a team to accomplish more than ever believed, or for an individual to accomplish more than they ever believed, sometimes has to be brought forward. And so I think good leadership comes from really being at the service of the individual or the team, and thinking not first about what I want as a leader or what I need and recognition and that sort of thing, but what does this individual in front of me need to be the best they can be as a part of being the best team that can be there, and really looking in and recognizing, sometimes the strengths, sometimes the weaknesses, sometimes the gaps that may be there, and what really needs to be, and how can I be of service to bringing that about. So I think for me, it's a servant mindset, it's a servant heart, putting the ego aside for the service of the team, and then really reveling in sort of that initially individual accomplishment of those that are a part of the team, but then really the accomplishment of the team as a whole. Jason has been a part of some of the projects that I've been involved with, and there's just no better feeling than being on the other side of whatever goal has been set, or whatever project you've been working on, and being able to look back and see all the things that have been accomplished despite barriers and challenges, and the way in which individuals and the group has overcome them. It's just beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, Alan, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I literally, over the course of the time here, you must have let a couple of people that we've worked with in the past know that I'm getting texts about, hey, can we join this live right now? Can we watch this right now? But it's this bond that comes, I think, from immovable deadlines, immovable timelines. It's a lot of these projects. It's like this, the show must go on kind of thing. And it's also, Alan, isn't it I think you see this resiliency in people when you're under that type of stress, and whether that's a deadline as a designer, or you're commissioned as an artist, or you said you were going to launch a podcast on a certain day, or you've got a business idea that you're going to launch. I think there's just a resilience and that your character really bubbles to the top. And I think that's one of the things that really stands out about the work that, Alan, I guess you and I have done, but we kind of continue to do there. I think it's just one of the most special things about that type of work. Yeah.
I think you brought in resilience. It sounds like you guys were pretty resilient on that. I mean, I was getting a little nervous even hearing you talk about it. Imagining 20 minutes before you're going live, like the stress.
Yeah, and we're evacuating the lightning, aluminum stands,
volcanoes.
Yeah.
I was hoping that you were going to say it was a joke, but
all real.
Rolled through it.
The reality of it is I think we all face those moments. Of self-doubt. We all face those moments, where our dark side voices come in and tell us that you can't do something, or you're not good enough, the imposter syndrome, whatever you want to call it. We've all faced those things, right? And I think as leaders, we have to overcome some of that same stuff that's happening in us at the time, but we also have to recognize that that's happening within the people that we work with, and that to be able to champion them to overcome that, and to just breathe life into them when necessary, or salute and applaud them when they have done an amazing job. That's the kind of stuff that I think just makes teams really come together, makes individuals stronger, and the projects, like what we've worked on and we're talking about, just that much sweeter.
Yeah, so special. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Alan, thank you so much. For coming on the show, for your time, for sharing some stories, and just for answering some deep questions that I still had about that project, to be honest.
My pleasure. It was been great talking with you. Good to go down the road of memories, and wish you all the best on whatever episode 6 is going to bring.
Absolutely, and I'd love to keep the door open here. It sounds like you're working on a Tokyo 2020 project. Ooh. Maybe after that, have you back on the show, and right. I want to keep that door open. I'm You're a friend of the show now, Alan. You're a friend of the show.
Awesome.
Thank you
I'll
so
get
much.
my hat in the mail, right?
Yeah, we'll send you some swag.
A sticker.
Yeah, a memory.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Alan.
You're very, very welcome. Have a good one. Take care.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
No.
Wow.
Our first.
Right?
Our first
Feel
phone
like
interview, and it went really great.
Yeah. And just like so many takeaways. And I mean, you can see why when you and I talk about that type of work, and even, I mean, you and I have been on projects too, some fairly large projects where you get that sense of camaraderie with that team that you're working through. And
absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what the client side too. I mean, I think sometimes we can feel this tension between like the client but there are other times when everybody's just working together for a common outcome.
I love that he said, looking back and getting to celebrate.
Yeah.
And just that idea of it. Sometimes I feel like as artists, we can just kind of grind and keep going, and we're in the middle of a project and we're already looking at the next project, and it's it's kind of almost even like a cultural where we're really fast paced. And I love that he paused and said that he looks back and he celebrates others and he celebrates the team. Cause I think that really is an important part that sometimes as an artist you can miss.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially even as part of a team, or certainly as an individual, if you're an entrepreneur, one of your thoughts is always, what is the next project? Right. How am I setting myself up?
Right.
And yeah, just celebrating those wins. Right. I think it's so important. And man, what a great interview. Just again, thank you so much to Alan Brooks for coming on the show today. And that's what we've got for today. Yeah. So can't forget this. Episode 6 is coming up. Mm-hmm. But we gotta remember also thank our sponsors.
We have to thank our sponsors.
So Creative Consortium.
Mm-hmm. Here in Paulsbo, Washington.
And also My Lion Marketing at mylionmarketing.com. Thanks so much for supporting the show, to both of them. And
we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.